Hi guys, welcome to Ways of the World. If you are new around here, let me quickly introduce ourselves. My name is Aymara and this is my husband Gordon, and we are a couple who loves to slow travel. We love to take the time in each country to get to know the people and learn about the culture and go to places that a lot of people don't take the time to visit.
Our adventure started last year in September of 2021 when we spent 3 months traveling all around Turkey. We then went to Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula where we spent just over 2 months, and we just finished our third travel series with over 2 months here in beautiful Albania, where we fell in love with this incredible country.
We had the best time exploring Albania, and we are very sad because we're getting ready to leave tomorrow, but before we head over to our next destination, we really wanted to sit down and make this video and share like our itinerary, travel tips, transportation, food, basically everything we learned from our time here.
Everything you need to know about Albania to have the best trip ever. This is kind of a funny story. We were very indecisive when trying to figure out where we wanted to go for our third country. We kind of settled on Montenegro and Croatia, and I started like pulling into like Google Maps, and I saw this like little country just north of Greece. I was like, what is that little country? And it turned out to be Albania. So I did some quick Google searches. It looked pretty cool, like very fascinating history, beautiful. It said that there were like very nice people here. So yeah, that sounds like a good spot.
That sounded like good enough for us. He told me about it. I was like, I don't know anything about Albania. Did a quick Google search, watch a couple videos, and I was like, so let's go to Albania.
It feels like we went to a lot of different places.
We really did. I have it all here. I challenge you to do it all in one breath without making a mistake.
I have been challenged. Okay, so we started our adventures through Albania in Tirana, the capital city. Then we went north to a small mountain village known as Kruja. From Kruja, we went to the coastal city of Durrës, where we just spent like 2 days hanging out, catching up with work, because we also wanted to take a communist train from Durrës to Elbasan, which is kind of like just south of Tirana. From Elbasan, we went back to Durrës because we wanted to take the ferry to Bari, Italy. So from Durrës, you can take a ferry to Italy. And then from there, we came back on the same ferry to the coastal city of Durrës. And from there, we explored the Albanian Riviera. Our 2 bases were Qepuro and Saranda. After Saranda, we went to a farm stay just outside of Neprevishta, so more inland in the mountains. After that, we went to Gjirokastër, a very beautiful like Ottoman city. And then after the Ottoman city, we took our road trip. The road trip started in Parmet. From Parmet, we went to Korça, and then Voskopoja, and then finally it ended in Lin, a beautiful little town right on Lake Ohrid, all the way on the eastern side of the country, next to the border of Macedonia, right? Okay. And then from there, we went back to Gjirokastër to drop off our car, and then we went to another Ottoman city that is called Berat. From Berat, we went north to Shkodër. From Shkodër, we went to the Albanian Alps to a little village known as Thet. And then from Thet, we went to Koman, which is also kind of in the Albanian Alps, like north of Tirana, and a very beautiful like lake and river setting. Absolutely incredible. And that's kind of where we ended our like video making, our travel series. And now we are back in Tirana, and we made a full circle and went everywhere in this beautiful country. I didn't even know that Albania had a reputation for being like a little bit unsafe before visiting here.
Yeah.
It is the safest place in the world.
It is super safe. Like we never had to worry about anything, and we say this in every travel series so far, thank God that we have said this, but like we never had to worry about anything, like in buses, walking on the street with our camera, going out at night. Albania is super safe. Now we're going to talk about money and budgeting, and the first thing that you need to know is that the currency in Albania, it's called lek, and $1 equals 115 lek, even though euros are widely accepted, like especially in like touristy places, like they'll take it for like your hotel, for cars, for certain activities. So if you have euros, like you should be okay. What else do you need to know?
You need to know that it's very much a cash-based economy, which kind of stinks for people that like to use credit card. But even for like car rentals, the rental and even the deposit is often only in cash.
Yeah, that's
Hotels,
true.
like guest houses, is always in cash. Very few places besides for like grocery chains and like a few other like exceptions accept credit card, which kind of stinks. So have enough cash, and then on top of that, like I think a lot of the ATMs charge like very high fees.
Yes.
So the one that you need to go to is called Credence Bank. It's like blue and yellow. That's how you can find Credence Bank. And they have much lower fees or like no fees.
Also tipping?
So tipping is not very customary. Like if you go to like a nicer restaurant, then 10% is kind of normal. But in general, if you go to like a cafe or just like very like local, like family run restaurant, then you can like leave a few extra cents, but it's not really that you have to tip.
Yeah, it's not expected, but I mean, it's appreciated. We averaged $44 a night, and it was mostly Airbnbs and a few hotels because a lot of the smaller towns, they don't have Airbnbs. And that was like a pretty decent average, even including like more expensive accommodations. Like in Bari, we paid like 70 something, and in Saranda, we also paid like 70 something. But most places, and Coman was also a little bit more expensive, but most places, like especially here in Tirana, we're paying like $40 a night for this place. So your money goes a long way when it comes to accommodation. You can get something like spacious and always super clean and nice for less money than other countries, I would say. For sure. For food, groceries versus restaurants, this was kind of a shocker. So for groceries, we spent $582, and for restaurants, $2,059.
Oy, we like to eat, huh?
Yeah. So let's like explain to them like why this number eating out like went up like so much, like compared to our other trips, right? Like this was a lot more than other trips.
I think the first part is that we stayed at more guest houses than usual. Like we had fewer Airbnbs because a lot of the small villages just don't have Airbnbs, like Aymara was saying. So we were forced to go out for like breakfast, lunch, dinner, and just eat at restaurants. So I think that was just part of it. Yeah. And then also the restaurants in the small villages can also be like kind of expensive. So the menus are like quite limited, and there's especially no menus, oftentimes there are no menus. So you are just like required to order what the chef has, and then it's like €15 per person, like between 12 to 20 euro per person. Exactly. It gets like very expensive at some of like the more like rustic. Yeah,
they like cover the table with food that you're probably not going to eat, and they just have like a flat fee per person, and it's like whatever they have. And it doesn't matter if it's like vegetarian or like with meat, like it all costs the same.
Yeah, it's like a flat rate.
So we spend a lot of time in like those small villages, so that really made our costs like a lot higher.
And in general, like meat is very expensive. So you can get like cheap pasta for like $4, the equivalent of like $4, like pizzas for like $4 or $5. Yep. But like once you get like, I don't know, like a piece of meat, then it's
or
like,
traditional foods.
Or traditional foods. And it's easily like over $10. You know,
and sometimes like some traditional dishes were like $20, $25. So it is pretty pricey. And also there's no street food. And street food is a great way that you can like save money when eating out, but they don't have that culture here. So like the only street food is like Börek.
Börek,
yeah. So
next we're going to talk about car rentals. So we rented cars 4 different times, and what we paid varied from like 35 euros a day to 50 euros a day. Once you get out of like the more touristy cities, it becomes very, very difficult to find a car, and it feels like you kind of like rent just from like a private individual, just like someone has a car available and they'll like give it to you.
I think that's what happened in the road trip.
I think that is what happened for the road trip. So that's one of the instances where we paid 50 euros. Also, like once you start like driving, gas is pretty expensive here in Albania, and I know like during this period, gas is expensive everywhere in the world. But I think Albania before that even had a reputation for having expensive gas.
Yes, so that adds up to your car rental.
So it's kind of pricey to rent a car in Albania.
Now we have taxis. According to my file, we took 12 taxis. The cheapest ones were $4.50. These were like for like in the city, like 5-10 minute rides. And the more expensive ones for longer rides were like 20 to 30 minutes. And they were like $26, $27. Some of the taxis can be like kind of pricey. They don't really have meters. So it's just like whatever the cab driver says pretty much.
Yeah, that's how it is.
Now we are going to talk about buses, and this kind of divides into like intercity buses and intra-city buses. So for the buses like within the cities, they're super cheap. I think they're like regulated to like 35 or 40 cents per person. So super affordable and really easy to use. And then in between cities, it kind of like varies.
Yeah, exactly. I think we paid between like $5 and $15 for the different like buses throughout the country. So that varied from like 1 hour to, I think our longest trip was longer, like 7 or 8 hours to Saranda. Yeah. Oh, wow. So it does vary, but it's also like there's no set fee, and like everything is very like not regulated and informal. So if gas prices were like higher, then I think like the fee was a little bit more. So I don't think they overcharged you, but like there is a lot of like fluctuation in the prices, I think, on like a day-to-day basis.
And it doesn't sound like much, but like these buses are not in great shape. We're gonna touch on that later. Like the bus system here doesn't seem to work that well. It's not like set up for like tourists. We'll touch on that later. Let's continue to trains. Also, not a train system?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. The train system just like completely collapsed after like the communist regime fell, like in the early 90s. There's only a couple trains that are like super rough that travel from like Elbasan to Durrës or Durrës to Elbasan, which is the one we took, and it was $1.30. Very, very rough.
If you want to watch the video, go ahead and watch it. It was quite the experience.
You'll be entertained. I think they're trying to like invest back into the train system, but right now there's like not really an option unless you just want to do it for like just doing it basically.
Yeah. I feel like we have to apologize for the light a little bit. We started making this video like an hour ago and the sun was out, but now there are some rain clouds and it's very dark. It's not nighttime. We're going to continue, but just so you know,
we're very sorry.
Sorry. Do you see that? That was like right there on that red building, like in the stadium. Now, budget for activities. This is where our budget kind of like balanced out a little bit because activities are like the ones we did at least, like they're affordable. So like we have like museums and castles were like between $150 and $450 per person. The cable car in Tirana was $8. Walking tours that are like tip-based, like, you know, anything between like $8 to $10 per person. Butrint, $9 per person.
Yeah, those like
which is
ancient
like,
ruins in the south of
which is not
Albania.
bad. And the most expensive thing that we paid was like a four-wheeler tour that I'm pretty sure we overpaid, and it was $44 in Boskopoja. And then there were other activities, like they have like cooking classes and like horseback riding and rafting that we wanted to do, but we didn't. And those are a little bit more expensive, but like we don't know for sure because do you know like more or less?
I think like €50 for like rafting, horseback riding, like also like €40, $40.
So like
whatever.
not super cheap, but like also not crazy expensive.
Yeah, but it's not really like an activity-based like country. Like the infrastructure is not really there. It's not like you show up to like a city and it's like, oh, we have all these activities. It's like you really have to like dig for them.
Yeah.
So like that's why it also stays pretty low. Your activities budget.
Yep, which is great.
That's an interesting question. We think in general, no, that you don't really get overcharged. Like taxis are probably an exception. Like we have no idea what like the standard rate is for like a negotiated taxi, but probably we were overcharged for those.
Probably. Also
like a few times in like more like local supermarkets, we were overcharged. Definitely once in like Saranda. So like sometimes they don't like scan like the items. They just kind of like give you a price at the very end. It's not even like itemized, and then you don't really know like how they got to like that
That's
total.
your first like red flag. Like whenever they do that, either like ask or just like leave, because we got like ripped off. And I'm gonna put the photo of the supermarket here because I'm still not over it. Like she was the worst.
I think it's illegal in Albania to like not have an itemized receipt.
Yeah,
so you can like demand it. Like no, like show me the receipt and then I'll like pay for it.
Yeah, when we asked for the receipt, like she was like no, and then we were tired. Whatever, it was our fault as well. But we're just sharing, so you have like, you know, like you're prepared for it. And there's something very interesting that people do here that makes you think that you're like being overcharged, but you're not. So they add an extra zero to amounts, and it's confusing.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that happened. They like changed the currency. So there's like old lek and new lek. And this happens more, I think, with like elderly people, and like when they just like calculate the receipt, like writing down the number, they'll just like add an extra zero.
Yeah.
So you'll be buying like 2 onions, and they'll charge you like 1,000 lek, and you'll be like, what the hell? Why am I spending $10 on like 2 onions? But it's really 100.
Yeah, exactly.
But for whatever reason, they're writing
when
an extra
that
zero.
when that happened to us, like what you can do as well is, if they write like 2,200, what they probably mean is 220. So just give them the 220 and you'll see that it's fine. You know, so that's like the way that you know. So don't think they're like ripping you off, because it is something that happened a lot. Yeah. So when you go and pay that, it's fine. It is actually like you have to eliminate 1 0.
Yeah. So like most big cities will kind of have like a bus station, but even that is just like a parking lot with people that own their own like private bus again with like.
We call it bus shopping.
Yeah.
You go destination shopping at the bus station, so you find a bus that has the name of where you're going, like right in front, and then you go talk to the driver. Exactly.
It's really disorganized. It's hard to figure out like what like the schedules are. There is like one website called Girafa. It's like
I'll put it here.
Giraffe, but with a GJ. But even like those schedules are incorrect, but at least you get like a sense of like how many buses there are that like go in between those like two places. So you kind of just have to like show up, as Amanda was saying, like find your bus. So like if you're in Tirana, you go to like the parking lot outside of Tirana and you say, okay, this bus is going to Saranda. And then you just
you're usually fine, like in cities like Tirana and Durrës, for example, they have a lot of buses everywhere, but start praying if you're going somewhere where your bus, or where there's no like a direct bus. In most cases, there's not. So you have to go back either to Tirana or Durrës and like go out of your way, get on another bus. If you have time, you'll make it. I mean, we did it, right? But then there's the other option if you're coming here on vacation and you can like set a budget for car rentals. That would be great, because that is the best way to move around in Albania in your own car, and it makes a difference.
It's the best way. You can like stop in like the villages and have like nice like local meals and stuff like that. The only thing is like there's not a ton of like big multinational companies, I guess. So like, if you pick it up somewhere, you have to like drop it off in the same place, which is usually fine, especially if you're coming into Tirana.
Exactly. Now we are going to talk about visas and entry requirements, and we can only speak for ourselves. So I am from Venezuela and I didn't need a visa to come here, and they also accept your prorroga. You would only know what a prorroga is if you are from Venezuela. I had to do some explaining entering, but it was fine. And for you?
Americans can stay here visa free for a year, so it's no problem to come with an American passport. Europeans too can just like come in. Albania is not part of the EU. It's also not part of Schengen. So like if you are traveling throughout like Europe long term, you don't have to like worry about coming to Albania. It's very easy to enter this country.
Now we are going to talk about our favorite stops from our trip around Albania, and I'm going to start by saying something that might be a little bit controversial, but countryside and mountains over beach towns.
Yeah, I'm going to add to that controversial statement. We think the Albanian Riviera is a little bit overhyped. Like the water in the sea is very, very beautiful, and you can go there and have a very nice time. But we felt like the towns were just missing a little bit something, and we really liked like the mountains and the other towns where
we kind of like connected. Connected.
We connected. We are connected at the moment.
So we had many highlights. Like the road trip, like to me was one of them. Epic. Like you really have to. I think that's the best way to see Albania too, because in these little towns, there's not much to see, but you still have to see them. So like if you move like a little bit faster, like a couple of nights on each, which is something that we rarely do, but it was the best way to do it because they're so beautiful. And like top of my mind like comes like Lynn,
on Lake Ohrid. It's absolutely spectacular. It's one of the prettiest places we have ever seen in our lives.
It was so pretty.
And then also like Lake Coman is also one of the prettiest places that we have ever seen in our lives. It's like more to the north towards like the Albanian Alps. Very remote, but very, very, very beautiful.
It's just like when you're in the mountains too in Albania, it's so peaceful and like quiet, and it's just so nice, and the food is good and people are like extra nice. So it was like where we had like our best experiences. And also like the cities, like the Ottoman cities like Berat and Gjirokastër, like you have to see them. They're really, really beautiful. And then what else?
The farm stay, like that was one of the coolest experiences, if not the coolest experience in Albania. It's not really like a destination, but if you like go there, you'll have the best time of your life.
It was very memorable. We basically were adopted, and we have family in Albania now, and it was awesome. And of course, Tirana.
Tirana is great.
Tirana was love at first sight for us, right? Like since this is the second time that we're here, we're like mostly working right now, but Tirana is such a cool, like I think up and coming city, I would call it.
It's also a great place to learn about like Albania's history, which is obviously very like complicated, and they have very interesting like bunkers, and they are very well done, like the museums here. So
all in all, Albania is awesome, and there's a lot to see, and there's a lot to do, and you should definitely come here because this quickly became like one of our like top 5 like countries.
Oh, we love Albania.
I'm going to start by saying that Albanian food is really, really good when it's good. However, it's not easy to find good food everywhere, right? That's more or less what happened.
Yeah, exactly. And like Albanian food it varies a lot depending on like where you are in Albania, and it has like a lot of different like influences, like Greek and like Ottoman and Turkish. So there's like a ton of different things that are like Albanian food, so it's like hard to describe kind of like what it is. But there's like a lot of like casseroles and like cheese-based dishes and stuff like that.
Like meats and like yogurt.
Yeah, meats and yogurt. And it, like Amanda said, it can be very, very, very good. Like we had awesome meals, but like the usual.
But we can like count them.
Yeah,
I guess,
you can count them on your hand. Like if you just go to like a restaurant, then
Yes.
It's probably gonna be like kind of average.
Yes. Also, we noticed that they are very into farm to table. So we saw a lot of farm to table restaurants. They have their own garden. Most of them even have their own cows that they like milk and they use to make like their own cheeses. So that was really cool to see too. They have really good soups. And in general, I think vegetable-based dishes were better than meat, right?
That's what we thought, yeah. We thought the meat dishes were like a little bit like dry, overcooked at times, but like the salads were like epic, which
Incredible.
sounds weird to say.
Yeah.
Like the salads
but they
are
were
very, very good.
really good. So if you check the description, like I made like a file that has like all the cities that we visited with like our Airbnbs, like extra information, and also the restaurants that we ate at that we really liked and the ones that we didn't like. So you can download that using the link in the description.
The Albanian language is very, very difficult to learn. It's like its own independent like branch of languages, so there's nothing else that is like Albanian.
Yep.
So if you know anything else, whatever it is,
It's useless.
useless in Albania. But we still picked up a few words throughout our travels.
Yeah, we think it's like super important to at least like learn a few words wherever you're traveling to, because it's like a sign of respect, you know, like to the people there, and they always appreciate it. It's always like a conversation starter. Like they like it when you try it, even though like they speak English. Like we had like
Usually.
like most like younger people especially, they speak English and you really like don't need it, but I think it's always like a good like practice as a tourist.
It brings a huge smile to their face if you say anything.
Yes, exactly. I bet we sound like funny saying it too. So here are the few words that we learned.
How are you?
Sijeni. Sijeni is a great one to learn because it's like a really common greeting. The only problem with Sijeni is that because it's like easy to say, people think that you speak Albanian. So like they start like saying stuff in Albanian to you and then you're like, yo, skip, yo.
Skip, yo. That's a good thing to learn. Skip, yo. I don't know if that's the right order of words.
Yo, skip, yeah, it's like no Albanian. Yeah, so they'll know and yeah, they'll appreciate it. But learn Sijeni. Sijeni is a good one to learn to say hi.
Good.
Mire.
Mira. Okay.
Mir.
Those are responses to Sijeni.
Yeah.
Mira.
Yeah, exactly.
Good morning.
Mire menjes.
Mire menjes. Po. Please.
Ju lutem.
Po. Chicken.
Pule.
Pula.
Pula.
Po. Meats.
Mish.
This is a curveball. Pork.
I don't know pork.
Gici.
Gici. Okay.
Or and veal. Vici.
Vici. Okay.
Bread.
Buka.
Po. Wine.
Vera.
Of course she knows wine. Beer.
Bira.
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 And cheers.
Gezuar. That one you should learn too.
That's a good one. And rakie, which is
rakie. Exactly.
You'll learn that too if you come to
You will learn
Albania.
it. Yeah. And also you can mix them, so you can say like Jo faleminderit, which is no thank you. And you can say Po ju lutem, which is yes please, and you will look very, very polite.
It's fun to learn skip.
We did good. I think we did well. Like there were like, I don't know, 14 words.
Well, we also know water, ui.
Oh, ui?
Ui me gas, water with gas.
Yes, that's true. Oh
we
my
know quite
gosh,
a bit how to order.
Quite a bit, yeah.
But like, as Amanda was saying, like a lot of people like speak decent English and like they'll try to order, or they'll try to have you order food in like English, which kind of stinks because I wanted to practice more.
Yeah, but then when you practice, like they'll smile at you and it's really nice. You say uje me gas and they're like, what?
Yeah. Lodra, toy, makina, car, problem.
Next, we are going to talk about COVID. I have this in my notes because, I mean, COVID is still around and you do have to, like, talk about it. Like, people care about this when they're traveling. But I wrote in my notes, like, COVID who? It's because, really, it doesn't feel like COVID is a thing here in Albania. There are not, like, restrictions.
Didn't get the memo about COVID. So if you're, like, conscious about that and like prefer people around you to wear masks like in buses and like crowded places, then maybe don't come here because like really nobody wears like a mask.
Yeah, exactly. You can wear it, like you'll see people wear masks like one every like
we haven't seen it
1,000.
Yeah.
But like if you want to wear it, obviously you can, but like people around you, they won't be wearing masks like anywhere. So just keep that in mind. Now we are quickly going to touch on Albania's history because it is important, as you know, as important as learning a few words in like their language, that you know a little bit about the history, so you can. It's a good like conversation like starter. It would, especially here in Albania, it will like help you like understand, right, the people that you're going to interact with. Can you tell us more about it, Professor?
Yeah,
the
just like
nerd.
the modern history of Albania.
Yeah.
So like Albania was under like a very, very intense like Stalinist dictatorship from like the early 40s to 1991. It was completely closed off to the rest of the world. Its only friend was like China. So like no one was allowed in and out until 1991, which is mind-blowing because that's a very recent history. So as I was alluding to, like a lot of the people that you'll speak with, like they didn't know anything about the outside world until like 1991, and they watched some TV and they like figured out what like, bananas were, that like the world was like happening around them. So
and they had no idea, and like that's part of the reason why we recommend like doing like a walking tour in Tirana when you first arrive here, because you can learn so much, and it would help like set the tone for like the rest of the trip too. It's like you understand like why you're driving, and you'll see like bunkers everywhere in the mountains, or like it's really worth like learning about. It's super interesting.
Yeah, and there was like very intense like surveillance, like people were like oppressed, so it's just good to know about, because like a lot of the people just like lived through it, and like
and it was very intense, and I think changed like their lives too. So we talk about it like in a few videos, and the one that we talk about it the most was the one about Tirana, and then like bunkers. So you can check those out. I'm gonna put everything that we're talking about is gonna be linked in the description, so if you want to see something else after you're done with this video, you can go to the description and find it. We're getting close to wrap up this video, but we always like to include like the things that we didn't like, because no country is perfect, and I think this stuff is like important to like talk about, to give like travelers and tourists like a little bit of a heads up. And for me, the number one thing I didn't like was when we went to like the smaller towns and there were no menus. First of all, because I'm a picky eater, a little bit picky, and also because like it was just like, this is what it is. It costs like 15 euros and it's a lot of food that you're probably not going to finish. And it seemed like wasteful, and you know, like that you were like, it felt like you were overpaying, right? A
little bit, and like the prices didn't vary, like if you did modify like the menu a little bit. So like it's like, okay, I don't want the meat, I just want like a vegetarian plate.
Or
like
something
it's still
small.
like or something small, like pasta or something, it's still like 15, you know, it's just like a flat rate.
Sometimes I would order like my dish, like, oh no meat, and I would get like a plate of like potatoes. And I was like, well, I'm not gonna pay like 12 euros for, you know, for potatoes, no. So that is definitely something I did not like.
The buses, it's very, very disorganized and kind of frustrating. So we lost like days traveling on the bus. Like we didn't make it to our destination at the end of the day. So it just was very kind of like chaotic and not ideal.
So definitely, if you can avoid that, rent a car.
Experience.
Exactly, it's part of the experience. Everyone's very nice, so it makes everything more enjoyable.
And also some of like the more like naturey areas are kind of like dirty with like trash, so, like theft specifically, and also like Lake Coman and like the Shala River. Like there's not enough like trash cans, like, and there's just like I don't know.
And there's too many people.
I wish there was more like infrastructure, or like people cared more to like put stuff away in bins and like close them, and like I don't know.
Yeah, it especially like hurts to see like. And it's not that it was like filled with trash. It was not the case. Like if you see your videos, you barely see like any trash. But like when you're there, you kind of see it, and it's kind of like a turnoff. It's sad.
And also, this didn't really affect us, but it affects the Albanian people. It's a corrupt country, and we like learned that from like speaking to a lot of the people here. And it's very sad. It's like kind of holding the country back from like developing.
I think so.
So we don't like the corruption. Government,
stop the corruption in Albania.
But let us come back into the country. If you ever see this video, please don't ban us.
Because we still love you. Well, that is it, you guys, for this all about Albania video. If you made it all the way here, thank you. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found the video useful. If you have questions, you can always leave them in the comments. We are always happy to help. And if you're wondering if you should come to Albania, what do you think?
Better come to Albania. It's absolutely incredible. It exceeded our expectations by like 1 million. And it all starts with like the beautiful Albanian people. They're so hospitable and like friendly and like chatty.
Sweet and just everything. Like really, they're just so nice, and they made our trip like so much more memorable. And yeah, we can't wait to be back. Like this country is awesome, and not only because of the people, like the sights are beautiful, like nature. You're always going to be surrounded by mountains, over mountains, over mountains. Like that's all you see when you look around, and it is stunning.
The history is fascinating. Like Albania has so much like in this tiny country that it will just be mind blown. It's awesome.
Exactly.
So tomorrow we fly to the beautiful city of Zurich, where we're gonna have about 48 hours. We cannot have more time there because it's very, very expensive.
Yeah.
So we're gonna leave on an overnight train to Amsterdam, and we're gonna visit my lovely grandpa, my opa, have 3 days in Amsterdam with that beautiful man.
Yes. And from Amsterdam, we are going to fly to our next destination. We are not going to share it now because there's still a few videos like in between now and our next stop. But what we're saying is that right now it's mid-August. We're going to stay in Europe until mid-November. And we are going to do 2 countries in the next 3 months. So we are very excited. Both seem incredible. And you know, now that are in Europe, so if you can guess, feel free to try to guess in the comments which countries we're going to visit.
So much suspense. Cliffhangers everywhere.
Cliffhangers. But anyways, thank you for watching. We hope you found the video useful. Again, if you have questions, let us know. We're always happy to help. And remember to check the description to download any forms, or not forms, but PDFs with extra information about the places that we visited. And yeah, thank you so much for watching.
Thank you for watching.
We'll see you next time. Bye.
See ya.